Today we're going to talk about bullets, how the bullets are meant to work on the tabletop, how the rules in 10th edition 40k affect the bullets, and how we get the bullets into the people. 10th edition of 40k uses true line of sight, so from any part of the model to any part of the enemy model. A Dark Eldar raider can fire its dark lance from its prow sticking out from behind a building at the wingtips of Magnus the Red, whose base is fully behind the building but the wingtips are sticking out. This is normal in 10th edition, but there's more. The raider has the firing deck ability, so the Kabbalite warriors being carried by the raider can fire through the raider prow as well. Although with the firing deck rule, what is happening in rules terms is that the Kabbalites are passing their guns over to the raider and the raider fires the guns for them. Welcome to the shooting phase in 10th edition. I am going to explain the weird cases, the odd stuff, the unusual rule situations and how they are resolved, and I will try and stay sane during this video. I am doing my best. This edition uses the rule for true line of sight. If you can see a thing, you can shoot a thing. Just put your face on the table, resist the urge to inhale the fake grass, and use your human eyes in your human eye holes to see if your model can see. But we will also be getting to situations where you kill models you can't see, and that isn't with indirect fire weapons. True line of sight is silly, but requires fewer words to explain than in past editions, even if I prefer the past editions. And line of sight is drawn from any part of the model, not just the hull, not the gun barrels, not just the base, any part of the model. So this end of the protruding barrel on this Predator lets you fire the main gun and the sponson guns, even though the sponson guns are behind the building, and any other guns it has can all fire from that big cannon without needing to be indirect fire. It is simpler to understand than figuring out line of sight and firing angles for each gun with extra images and classifications of what kind of gun can fire where, and there were different standards for dreadnoughts, which are vehicles, but not the Carnifex as guns because that is a monster even though it is the same size as the dreadnought. That was just the past. Everything is firing from any part of any model. Now that we've got the concept of looking at stuff down, we move on to the main thing you need to remember for the rest of the video and the shooting phase generally. All shots happen at the same time, even though they are resolved one at a time. This is confusing, but also the easiest way to think of it. Remember this. It is the most important thing you will learn today. Unless you're like learning how to drive or something, whatever's happening in your own life. I have some data about you, but not all of the data. Happy birthday. But only if that's applicable. So here's an example. A tactical squad shoots at a Necron warrior squad. The Necron warriors all have the same toughness. The tactical squad, a wonderful unit, is made up of 7 marines with bolters, a sergeant firing a bolt pistol, 1 marine has a plasma gun, and 1 marine has a missile launcher. Even if the marine right at the back of the squad couldn't see through the gaps in legs and under arms of his fellows to see the Necron warriors, you are able to shoot through friendly models in the same unit. You do not get to fire through all friendly models. So if there was a massive hammerfall bunker in the way, it's a friendly model, but it's not part of the same unit as the tactical squad, so tactical marines can't shoot through it as if it wasn't there. But contrary to all the things we just said about using your eyes and line of sight doesn't apply like that because models in the same unit don't block each other. It's almost like you take off every other model in the squad to check line of sight from one guy before putting them back on, metaphorically. In battle terms, it is assumed that the squad is coordinated enough so that the people in front will crouch or go prone so that they don't get shot in the back of the head. You declare your targets and then all the bullets are fired. The rules don't say all the bullets are fired, but the rest of the rules are based on the pre-assumption that at this one moment, all of the bullets are fired. So the 7 bolters and the bolt pistol are firing at the Necron warriors, the plasma gun is firing at the Necron warriors and chooses to overcharge. It gets an extra point of strength, so it's running on 2s rather than 3s, and the missile launcher has to choose what kind of missile it's using. In this case, it picks a frag missile. All models in the tactical squad can see the enemy unit, so we're fine. All of them can shoot. Fighting in 40k is mostly considered on a unit-to-unit basis, not model-to-model. Mostly. All models in the tactical squad can see at least one Necron warrior model, so all the tactical marines can shoot the enemy unit. So the bolters fire first, and all of the shots from the bolters, which is 2 per model, are rolled together. And also the bolt pistol is rolled at the same time because it has the same profile. Hits on a 3+, strength 4, AP 0. So you roll those 14, 15 dice, you roll to hit, you roll to wound. Saves are taken one at a time, as there are 2 different saves in this target unit. Some of the models are out in the open, some are getting the benefit of cover. That's because cover is mostly figured out model by model, while shooting is done unit to unit. So the Necron warrior player chooses to take a lot of the saves on the models in the open, they're on a 4+, and when they're killed, they're removed from the board. Any remaining successful wounds are then taken on the models at the back with the cover save. They can't be seen because there's a big ruin in the way, and that grants the benefit of cover. Stick with me on this. The attacks are against a unit as a whole, but if there are more attacks to be assigned, they keep on being applied until the unit is destroyed. In past editions like 7th edition, the attacks stopped once all the models in line of sight were dead. But that is not how it works in 10th edition. If there are saves still to be taken and there are models still alive in the target unit, you keep taking those saves. So the missile launcher fires next. Blast still works on the missile launcher, and the bonus shots from Blast are figured out when the attack from the unit is declared, not the moment the dice are rolled. And even though right now the Marine with the missile launcher can't see any enemy models, the rules for shooting are that if your model could see an enemy when the target unit was declared, then it can still shoot. Like I say, even though it's not explicitly stated, it is easiest to think of all of these shots happening at once. So the missile launcher kills the rest of the squad. And there we have just the perfect representation of shooting in 10th edition. You fire at the robot called Jim with lots of bullets because you can see Jim, and the robot called Bobby, who is hiding behind a wall, died as well. Is it machine empathy? Who's to say? But these are the rules of 10th edition. The plasma gun hasn't rolled their dice, but it still has fired, and so you still roll a hazardous test for the Marine with the plasma gun. Okay, so in a similar way, if this was a close combat and all the Marines attacked and wiped out the enemy unit, but the sergeant or an attached lieutenant hadn't rolled their dice yet, even if they pile into another unit, the sergeant or character is considered to have made their attacks. You just didn't physically roll the dice because that would be a waste of time when the enemy is already dead. The attacks all being done at the same time matters because even though you are rolling the attacks one at a time or by weapon, a Genestealer Cult Ridge Runner can't hit an enemy with its heavy stubbers, finish the attacks with the heavy stubber, and then use the crossfire rule on itself before firing its main gun. No, because all of the shots happen at the same time, and when it's finished firing all of the guns, then you apply the crossfire rule. This is also important because you declare your targets for all of your weapons before you fire any of them. So you couldn't fire the bolt guns, kill all but one of the Necron warriors, and then put a single missile into one of them to finish them off if you had already declared that the missile was going to be shot elsewhere. Are we still okay? We're still okay. It's making sense? Good. Let's get more confusing. Because I'm hoping that this video will become a useful thing of, if someone says, I don't understand this weird thing in the shooting phase, you can just send them this video and them and I can suffer together. So elsewhere, on the same battlefield, Necrons are shooting at a Proteus kill team. The Proteus kill team is a Deathwatch Legends unit, but it's a good example. You can have Deathwatch and regular Marine units in the same army through the Agents of the Imperium Codex rules, and maybe they'll get changed again, who's to say? But this unit has 4 Terminators, Toughness 5, a bike at Toughness 5, and 5 Deathwatch veterans that are Toughness 4. It therefore has an equal number of models at toughness 5 and toughness 4. Normally, when you are calculating the toughness of what you are shooting at, you use the highest toughness in the bodyguard unit. So if you attach a Neuro Tyrant, very high toughness, to Neuro Gaunts, you use the Neuro Gaunts toughness 3 because they're the bodyguard unit, and the highest toughness in that Neuro Gaunt unit is the toughness 3. But there is a Deathwatch specific rule that overrides the rules commentary. Gretchen also have a similar thing where the one orc boy in the unit is not counted for the whole unit's toughness, even though they're not a character. You don't use the highest toughness in a Gretchen unit, you don't use the Runtherder's toughness 5, you use the toughness 2 of the Gretchen, but that's only because it said so on that unit. But we've established that this Deathwatch unit, for the Deathwatch rule that they are toughness 5. So the Chronomancer in the Immortal unit rolls their dice first and saves are taken on the bike model and the bike dies. Then the rest of the Necron Immortal unit roll their attack dice. At this point, the point where we are rolling the dice for the Immortals' attacks, toughness 4 is now the majority toughness, but it doesn't matter because we roll against what the toughness was when the Necron Immortal unit declared its attacks. The Chronomancer character is in the unit using the leader keyword and attached unit rule. They are just as much a part of the unit as any other model in it. So the Immortals fire and kill one Terminator. Okay, that unit is now done rolling dice. Now a completely different Necron unit shoots at the same Proteus kill team, and they are firing against their toughness of 4. Because there are 5 models left in that unit that are toughness 4, 3 models that are toughness 5. It doesn't matter where the Deathwatch wants to assign any wounds, Terminator or Veteran, all of the shots are resolved against toughness 4. The only part that matters when assigning wounds is the armor save of the model. When the Proteus kill team comes to fire back at the Immortals, you can't assign wounds to the Chronomancer character in an attached unit voluntarily, much as you may love to tank all of the shooting on a Canoness's 2+ invulnerable save. Shooting in characters is explained more a bit later on. So you're thinking, okay, well, if all of the attacks are essentially resolved at the same time, why can't I just roll all the dice at the same time? Why does it matter that I have to do it profile by profile? It matters for the different armor saves. So in that Proteus kill team, I might want to assign the wounds to a Terminator, because if there's no AP and the attacks are damage 1, I will go for the best save possible. And I have to keep assigning wounds to that one Terminator until that Terminator dies. I can't switch midway through if another profile started attacking. If you have assigned attacks to a model already in that phase, you keep assigning attacks to that model until it dies. So this also matters for multi-damage attacks happening at the same time as single damage attacks. Even if a multi-damage like damage 2 attack is happening conceptually at the same time as the damage 1 attacks, this is when the order you resolve the attacks matters. If you are facing an enemy with wounds characteristic 3, and there is an enemy model on 1 wound left, rolling and resolving your damage 1 attacks first, which have to be assigned to that wounded model, before your single damage 3 attack, that's a good idea. Your damage 1 attacks might finish off that 1 remaining wound, leaving the damage 3 attack to instantly kill another 3 wound enemy model. If you did the damage 3 attack first, it would just kill that model with 1 wound remaining. There is no spillover in 40k 10th edition. The damage 3 would do enough wounds to kill that model, and that would be it. But then the damage 1 attacks might hurt the next enemy a little bit. See, this is the difference between killing 1 tough enemy and killing 2 tough enemies. Aha, you may think, but what if you are a fast roller and have specially colored dice for your different weapons? Good. Just declare what the order is as you explain what you are rolling. So these 4 blue dice are for the Stormbolter attacks at damage 2, and they are firing first. And then these 3 red dice are the Heavy Bolter, which is damage 2, AP -1. Then the 16 white dice are Bolter shots, that comes last. And then I roll all those dice at the same time. Because now my opponent knows the blue dice, which is the Stormbolter, is first, and they will be resolving the saves from those attacks first. Then they'll be rolling the Heavy Bolter attacks, and then the regular Bolt Gun attacks. And that is just how I have a Sisters of Battle unit. I have trouble getting my head around the averages of how many traitor marines my sisters can kill. I feel it should be lots, but it isn't lots. To help me figure out the odds, I use Adept Roll, the math hammer app, which is also today's sponsor. If you want to figure out how the different damage of your weapons affects enemies of varying toughness and health, this app gives you that and provides colourful graphs where you can select and deselect different weapons to see their average results. You can put in all the modifiers that you get in 40k, like sustained hits and +1 ballistic skill modifiers, and very quickly you can see what the damage would be against, say, those multi-wound Space Marine types. The app helps new players get a grasp of the damage their units can output, and it lets veteran players prep for their tournament opponents as soon as you can see your opponent's lists. It's available on iOS and Android. The link to download it is in the description and as a pinned comment. Close combat is resolved in the same way as shooting. All attacks from a unit happen at the same time. So if my Palatine with the Blade of St. Eleanor kill a Technomancer in close combat using their precision attacks, the remaining attacks that were done at the same time are now allocated to the Wraiths, and those attacks may also be blocked or resisted by the Feel No Pain that comes from the Technomancer. Once the Palatine unit, including any attached unit, has finished their attacks, then the Feel No Pain drops, and a different unit, like Repentia, could go to town on the Wraiths in the same combat phase without the Feel No Pain being a bother. I have a video on precision that can help with more questions you may have about murdering enemy characters. But let's go another level deeper, and to a different battlefield. We now have the Genestealer cult against Space Marines. So we have a unit of 5 Acolytes, they are with a Primus and a Locus. Normally you can only have one character attached to a unit, but the Locus special rule says in a battle line unit you can have them and a Primus. So this unit, which is a whole unit of 7 models, they are targeted with Oath of Moment by the Space Marine player. This is an ability that lets you reroll all hit rolls against the target. The bodyguard unit is Toughness 4. They get shot by bolters, and all the Acolyte bodyguards die. At this point, just at this point, because there's more attacks to be made, the unit does not split into 3 units of dead Acolytes, a lone Locus, and a lone Primus. We still have attacks to make, and the shots can now be allocated to the leaders. So, easiest way to think of it is all the shots happening at once. You can't save your leader at this point by claiming they are now a separate unit. The bullets are already coming their way, and they don't get wasted or lost. Just don't get hung up on the idea that attack rolls are meant to be resolved one at a time, because the rules are all designed around fast rolling. So there are now more bullets coming towards our dying Acolytes and the Locus and Primus. What we do as the Genestealer cult player is be tricksy in where we allocate wounds. All the missile shots and plasma blasts to come are still rolling against the Toughness 4 of the Bodyguard Acolytes, so it doesn't matter that the Primus is Toughness 3. For the moment, they are still one unit. Since we only have characters left, we Genestealer cult players can allocate the attacks to the Primus, because the Locust grants a 4+ Feel No Pain to other characters. It doesn't give itself a Feel No Pain. So those continuing attacks from that same one enemy unit attacking us can be resisted with a Feel No Pain. The Primus in the Xenocreed detachment would get a 3+ Feel No Pain while the bodyguard is alive, and if the bodyguard unit dies around them but the same enemy unit still has more shots to come, he keeps the 3+ Feel No Pain until that enemy unit has finished firing. Then when that unit is done, all the rules trigger for a unit being destroyed, like losing the 3+ Feel No Pain, rolling a Cult Ambush test for the dead bodyguard unit, even though the formerly attached character is still alive. Cult Ambush doesn't return characters. The reason that it happens now is so that rules like Deadly Demise don't trigger in the middle of a shooting attack and mess up who is left to fire. Because if you were shooting at something that might explode, and then it exploded and killed one of the attacking models, how do you figure out if that was a model that's already fired their bullets or not? So this is a simpler way. So once the attacking Marine unit is done, the Acolytes are dead, you've rolled for Cult Ambush as that unit is now gone. The Primus is now a character on its own, the Locust is now a character on its own, and they both become Oath of Moment targets as that is a persisting effect. But as I understand it, Say the Locus and Primus were also killed in the attack. It would count as 3 units being destroyed, as the unit splits after death to score victory points. Otherwise it gets stupid if you could wipe out everyone in one go, but that would only count as 1 kill, whereas if you had just enough attacks to break apart the unit by killing the Acolytes, and then a separate unit shot the Locus and the Primus, that would count as 3 victory points. So if the Locus, Primus and Acolytes had all been killed in one go, they would split into 3 dead units, and the Space Marine player would score equivalent victory points for killing 3 separate units. But just to add that feeling of inconsistency, if this was based on the secondary mission marked for death, and that Acolyte unit with the Primus and the Locus had been selected, you would have to kill the Acolytes and at least one of the characters in order to score that secondary mission. Oh, isn't the shooting phase fun? This has been my best effort to explain the silly abstractions of shooting in 40k. Logic and common sense don't come into it. You can see how nonsensical the rules get as soon as the benefit of cover is introduced. Oh, that's a doozy. Oh, that's like a whole nother level. My darlings and viewers, have a great day of 40k.